GameCast Continuum. Alright, welcome everybody to GameCast Continuum. Thank you so much for listening live here on Beam, watching us on YouTube, or listening on Podbean or iTunes. We are your hosts, DC Skater Shane and
Mr. Bojangles, 1984.
GameCast Continuum is a gaming podcast where we randomly select some of the greatest games from past and present and then go into their history in detail. However, before we can get into all the fun, we need to take care of a little bit of housekeeping. We do this podcast live on Sunday nights at 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time over at beam.pro/GameCastContinuum. The best way to keep up to date, though, with the cast is to follow us over on Twitter over at @GCContinuum. We'll tweet out what this week's episode is going to be and let you know if there's going to be any schedule changes or when we're going live, things of that nature. Now that we have taken care of that, let's get into the fun stuff with the topic of discussion. This week we'll be covering Halo 2. Take it away.
Fuck yeah. Well, I'm sure many people know what Halo is and how things have progressed, but we can't assume that everybody is privy to that information. So, Halo 2 was a sequel, of course. Got the number 2 thrown on the end of it. Yes, no, we're not throwing up peace signs. It was the second game in the Halo series. The first game was called Halo Combat Evolved, and Halo 2 was developed by Bungie, just like the first game, and it was also published by Microsoft Game Studios. One of the lead designers was Mr. Jason Jones, and pretty much the rest is history.
Yeah, going further into development, one of the biggest things about the Bungie games, especially I think the Halo series as well as Destiny and so forth, is how epic the soundtracks were.
Yeah, the music's always incredible.
They give you a real good feel of just they hit all the right notes at all the right times. And this one was no different, and it was composed by Mr. Martin O'Donnell and his partner Michael Salvatore, who did a bunch of the other Halo games as well. And then more recently, they had collaborated also on Destiny. But unfortunately, in April of 2014, O'Donnell was fired from Bungie without cause. Lawsuit ensued. He ended up winning for, wrongful termination. And the rest is history on that. But, on more positive notes, that music was just, it was excellent.
The score is phenomenal. I mean, the music still pops up in my head.
I love how Bungie just, with all their music, it's a lot more just orchestral, but it hits. When you have those real tense moments, you get that it feels like it. It's not just, a lot of games, like especially as of late, I've kind of started paying more attention to the audio tracks, and the soundtracks of them, because that can not necessarily make or break games, but it makes a measurable difference in how interactive, and emotions that can set in with it, I think.
Yeah, it certainly helps set the tone and can help them tell the story as well. If certain lines of dialogue could be misconstrued as meaning something other than how they want the story to go, they can use the music to help portray the characters that they have in their games in the way that they're meant to be according to their story design. So music is very important in games, and a lot of people focus mainly on, oh my god, the graphics, it looks like real life, and is it 60 FPS? Graphics are fantastic. 60, I don't know what the whole big thing is about 30 and between 30 and 60 FPS. I could give two shits.
Frames.
Yeah, 68 frames per second. Okay, but I don't even see a difference between those, but like you were saying, when you listen to the score and it has good music, I mean, you tend to have a better experience overall with those
it pulls
things.
you in a lot better, I think, personally. Like, especially on games like this that set such big scenes, the music really can hit, at those, critical moments. You'll hear the score building, building, building. Something big happens, and boom, makes it feel like you're there. Um,
Also, a good way to tell if you're entering a boss battle.
well, that too. It goes from nice calm music to just ah fuck, what
Yeah.
am I getting myself into?
As soon as there's a lot of bass drums and horns, you're in trouble.
Yep, that's when you turn around and run the other way. But I mean, with them, starting to develop the game, they actually a lot of their inspiration was actually pulled from plot holes from the original Halo.
Hmm.
Um, which I kind of it's interesting that a main inspiration for a game is building off of problems of the first game, and where people had issues with how the story kind of went continuity wise, that
Yep.
they used that to help build this game, basically.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean, it allows them another opportunity to tell those parts of the story that maybe they thought people would fill in the blanks on their own for. But after a game comes out, of course, I mean, you get to see how people played it, how they portray certain people in the game, and how they interpreted the story that you're trying to tell. And unfortunately, it doesn't go over as planned more times than not in the video game world. But it was pretty intuitive for Bungie to use those missing pieces as content in the second game in the franchise. Especially, well, I mean, it's probably later on, but I mean, Halo wasn't even supposed to be a franchise. It wasn't planned that way. Um, so
and
given
now
the
there's five,
yeah,
six,
there's
five,
so many. There
six.
was
I
well,
don't know.
are you including Halo Reach? Because that wasn't one of the numbered ones, right? There was like Halo 1, 2, 3. Halo Reach, I think, was after that. Then 4 and 5. And there's two different Halo Wars out now.
Well, there's also ODST as well.
Halo ODST, yeah, that was the last one that Bungie did, wasn't it? And then they
Yeah, because
handed it
there's
off.
actually I'm looking at it right now. There was Halo, Halo 2, Halo 3, Halo Wars, Halo 3. Well, Halo 3 was ODST. It was Halo 3 ODST. There's
Okay.
Reach. Then they had the anniversary of Combat Evolved, Halo 4, Spartan Assault, Master Chief Collection, Spartan Strike, Halo 5, and then Halo Wars 2. So for a game that wasn't really supposed to be franchised out, holy shit, here it comes.
Yeah, and they're still coming out, just under a different studio now.
I mean, granted, a lot of them are spin-offs and things of that nature, but
Yep.
even still, Jesus Christ. I mean,
Well, I mean, the fact that they have spin-offs for a video game, just kind of, it's a testament to how much people really enjoyed the content to the point where they could use like little side characters and give them their own stories, and people are playing them. So
yeah, but to be fair though, it's one of the few um, Xbox exclusives too, so that's
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
but I
I mean, the
mean,
the first Halo revolutionized freaking first-person shooters
oh,
as a genre,
absolutely.
so
Um,
had a pretty big
but
footing.
I mean, as with any game though, you had a couple little issues like with time. For instance, like with this one, time constraints especially, they cut back the size of the game, and it
No
kind of
way.
fucked with the ending, with your little cliffhanger ending in this,
Yeah.
because they ran out of time, unfortunately. I mean, it's a
Hmm.
shame, but it happens. There's
Doing the
not.
research for Halo 2 makes me kind of not be as surprised that the story for Destiny wasn't as great as I was expecting it to be.
Well,
Just being honest.
that show. To be honest, once we get to that show, there is a lot of shit that. It seems like kind of a common thing, but there's a lot of shit that went down that changed Destiny's story
Hmm.
at like towards the end of production.
Yeah, people
And
left Bungie, people got fired,
right.
a lot of
Um,
shit happened, which I understand, but
but I mean, even though they did have a cliffhanger ending and had to kind of cut back on a lot of things, Since Halo 1 took off, the original Halo took off so well, they had additional publisher support though for Halo 2, and it actually gave them a little bit additional leeway and the ability to kind of run with more ambitious ideas that were on the drawing board for the original Halo, but being a smaller studio and it was the first IP in the series, they didn't want to go. They couldn't necessarily go as far as they could have. Whereas here, they saw how much of a success it was, so it was like, all right, knock yourself out.
Yeah, maybe those are the plot points or plot holes, if you will, that Bungie was looking to include in the second Halo 2,
That
this game.
I mean,
Maybe it
that
was
could
those
be.
ambitious projects that they just didn't have the funding or ability to go after because they didn't have as much support from Microsoft at the time because it was the first game in the series. They were just a little unsure of how things would work, and
I don't blame them. I mean, you
yeah,
see, I mean, that's something common you see that with a lot of new IPs is
mm-hmm.
that from established companies is that they don't want to necessarily toss in all this money right off the bat, even though it could be a huge success because you don't know. And it's like you're going to use all those resources to try to make whatever you're trying to make,
Mm-hmm.
but you also don't want to pour in tons upon tons of money and then the game flop.
Right. I mean, Hollywood does that all the time with movies, but I mean, the game industry doesn't. They don't have that luxury
Right.
realistically to just dump a bunch of money into a game and not get paid back for their
And
investment.
hope that
So
it doesn't flop.
yeah, yeah. But
Um,
I mean, it looks like this game followed the typical release schedule, being
so
announced in September of 2002 with a cinematic trailer, which was 2 years before the game launched. It's typical time frame that you would see from publishers and developers these days as well. But I
I
mean,
hate it.
I hate the
I,
anticipation, especially if it's a game that you're really looking forward to,
I
like
just a couple
Destiny.
years in advance. Well, it's just I don't know the whole couple years in advance thing. It's getting to be a bit much anymore. Where it's like, oh, this game's coming out. Oh, shit, 2018. Well, why are you showing me all this shit now when I'm gonna forget about it until the next like
Well,
6 or 7 months from now.
if they do their marketing correctly, you won't forget about it. I mean, I think that's part of the point is they want to get it in front of you as soon as possible, and then they just build on top of all
Build
of
off
the
that.
information and the hype that they've already started with just the reveal,
Yeah,
saying,
that's
"Hey, we're this is our company. You guys know us from this, and that game. This is what we're working on, and it's slated for
be on the
release.
lookout.
Yeah, be on the lookout for this new great game that we're working on. We're really excited about it. It's coming out in 2 years, and then, the following year, hopefully sooner. But in the case of Halo 2, I mean, we didn't see the first gameplay footage until E3 of 2003, which wasn't a full year later. E3 is typically late June ish, early July, for the most part, from what I remember and understand. So
About, yeah.
it was around a year from when they first announced the game that we actually got to see it in action, and then it released a little over a year from then in November 9th of 2004 on the Xbox console,
With
exclusive at that point.
exclusive. But then, on top of that, well, a couple of years later, actually, about not quite 2 years later, on February of 2006,
Yep.
they also put out their PC version, but it was exclusively on Windows Vista because they're trying to push sales for Vista, which, shocker.
Yeah, I know.
Um,
Well, Vista wasn't really that well received, so
no, but I
you
also
gotta
saw
try
that
everything.
it was announced then, but and actually you were able to, from what I was reading, looking through, you were able to play it on other ones, but I forget, you had to basically have other things installed, so to speak, or whatever it was to enable to play it on other versions of Windows. So they were really trying to push everybody buy this.
Yep.
But even on that, it came out. It ended up releasing. It was announced again February 9th that it was coming out for PC, and then a little bit over a year later, it was released on Windows May 31st. But it was initially, it was supposed to come out on May, what was it, May 8th? I believe it was. Yeah, it was supposed to
Yeah,
come
May,
out
it was
on
supposed to come
May
out May
8th.
8th originally on Windows PC.
And then it got pushed back to May 31st because of they discovered apparently in the map editor that there was partial nudity in there, um, which I thought it was interesting that it was there. And basically what it was it was a photo of a man's ass. That was part of the .ass error message that you got in the map editor, I guess. I don't know why it was there in the first place. I don't know why you'd put a man's ass in the map editor. But
I don't know either.
you know,
But Bungie
it,
does have their own sense of humor, so
I mean, I guess, but still, I mean, shit, you got you're getting a man's ass. Like that didn't need to be put there, but whatever. But that got patched out and everything like that, and it was released, about 2 or 3 weeks after, and then on top of that, though, after it's been out for, let's see, it was out in what, 2004. So about 10 years after that, then they had re-released the Master Chief Collection on Xbox One with the remastered versions of the Halo franchise, basically.
gotta try
Um,
and sell the new console, baby.
which that came out in November of 2014, which had them all. Which I haven't gotten to play the remastered, so I don't know. I don't know how it is, but I mean, I have been playing Halo 5. It's good.
Yeah, I haven't played Halo since this one. Halo 2 was the last Halo game I've played.
Uh,
But, Bungie loves to get the community involved. So, as part of the marketing for Halo 2, they used an ARG, or an alternate reality game, called I Love Bees. And
no
essentially,
one
it
loves
just.
bees. Fuck.
Well, apparently we do now, because, I mean, they're going the way of the dodo. But
Well,
that's for, like, environmental podcast, not here. But
that's not our show.
no, that's not our show. But yeah, it was called I Love Bees, and essentially it just had players or potential players solving real world puzzles to unlock Easter eggs and get
Huh.
information about the game and stuff like that. Yeah. Which, I mean, if you've played Destiny, you know a lot about Bungie and their ARGs. They love doing shit and making you solve puzzles.
Make you work for those rewards.
Yeah, I mean, there was one heavily involved in unlocking the ability to get an exotic weapon in Destiny. I mean,
Outbreak Prime.
hmm and one of the great parts about it, which I wish more games would do nowadays, when I get it, the internet's huge, people play with their friends more online than what they
Internet?
do in person. But Halo 2, you could play either single player or you could play with a friend on the couch, co op, and go through the story together if you wanted.
I miss those games. I really do.
That's why I
Um,
said I wish games would do that more often. Like,
I mean,
every game that you pick up nowadays, you look on the back of the thing, it says one player. And then the only available option for multiplayer is online.
online. I think the last couch co-op game I played was Borderlands.
Borderlands 2 on the PS3.
Yeah.
Or Diablo
Was
on
that couch
console.
co-op?
Yeah, you can have several people on the same screen.
Huh. I mean, I don't know. I miss couch co-op games just because, although granted, it's just as easy to play with people online now too, but there's something
It
about
is,
getting
but just to have
people
the
together.
option. Just to
True.
have the option. If you have a friend coming over and you want to play a game with them, like, you don't have to take
Friends.
turns. I know. What are friends? What are friends for? To keep you company and to keep you from
Yeah.
killing everybody. But
Yeah, it's fair.
yeah, it's just a nice option. But
You know, well, back to the Halo. It's your typical FPS game as what all the rest of the Halo ones were. But you
Mm-hmm.
were able to actually use, um, and what's kind of different, not necessarily different, but since you are based, it's outer space. You are, space marine and all. You got to use your typical human weapons as far as like your machine guns, rocket launchers, grenades, submachine guns, pistols, so forth. But then you also had access to all of your alien weapons and
Yep.
vehicles. Which the alien weapons, I mean, I still preferred using a lot more of the typical weapons, like the your like space marine weapons. But the alien weapons just looked really cool. Like they had really good design. I thought
Yeah, they
um,
did.
they're very they're very futurist. I mean, they were futuristic, but they were easily recognizable. I mean, just I was looking at as I was doing some research, I was looking at some of the weapons, and seeing like because what they did that I thought was neat was aside from just putting in, you know, alien guns that are completely fucking out there, just that don't not that they don't make sense, but just pulling things out of their ass. They kind of made um, basically like Covenant versions of like Covenant counterparts to your typical weapons. So you had your normal sniper rifle for the Space Marine, then you also had the Covenant sniper rifle as well that looked nothing like a sniper rifle, but still did what it needed to do.
Well, it had the
Uh,
same basic form as like a long-barreled rifle, so I mean, you could somewhat tell that it was supposed to be a sniper. Same thing as like the Covenant pistol. I mean, of course they look different because they were made by an alien race and not humans, so
yeah.
they didn't look exactly the same. But I mean, to me personally, I mean, you can tell how the gun's going to react just by kind of looking at it, except for maybe the needler. The needler, I mean, you have to use in order to really be able to appreciate that weapon, which is probably why I love the Telesto in Destiny as much as I do. Because the needler was one of my favorite weapons to use in Halo.
Fucking Telesto.
It was just so much fun just to shoot those needles all over the place and watch them blow up, and yeah, good stuff. But
But what I did like though too, that they did with this game is they didn't want to clutter up the HUD, which I like. Like the HUD, it was very clean. I thought, you didn't have a health bar, nothing like that. You had your shield, and essentially, it's kind of like how it seems like all the Bungie games do something similar. Granted, it's another comparison back to Destiny, but you had your shield, and then once that got depleted, you had a small little bit of a buffer of health. Same thing as like what Destiny has, where your health bar technically is three segments, and first two are shield, bottom one's health, and then it would start to recharge over time. And then this was first thing too that you actually had the ability to board the enemy vehicles and destroy them by you could basically toss a grenade down into the cockpit, if you will, and it'll
yeah,
blow the fucking
you
thing up.
could bomb the tanks. You could commandeer the Banshees from the Covenant too, which was pretty freaking cool.
And then actually, and I thought this was interesting that last little sort of gameplay tidbit, that Halo 2 was actually the first one in the series to actually use the ragdoll physics, for deaths and for things like that, which make them interesting. It gave it a little bit. It gave the deaths a little bit more life instead of just shooting somebody and they just fall down.
Yep.
You could fucking hit them with a rocket. You see them go flying. It Granted, a little exaggerated, but it was something different that not a lot of games really did. I mean, now you see ragdoll physics on damn near every game out there, but
Yeah.
early on it was like, oh shit, I hit him with a rocket and he went flying.
Hmm.
Oh
Yeah, and gamers being gamers, they found ways to abuse those ragdoll physics, but
no, who would abuse that?
everybody.
Well, but and I can't really remember. I want to say this was the first one in the series too that gave you the ability to dual wield as well.
Yeah, some weapons you could actually dual wield. Two pistols. I think you could have two needlers as well. But the downside of dual wielding the weapons, though, that was the fact that you were unable to use grenades or your melee attack. Because when you push the right trigger, you pull the right trigger, you fire the weapon in your right hand. You pull the left trigger, you're firing the weapon in your left hand. So they're both tied to that, and without having a free hand, I mean, you can't necessarily grab a grenade and toss it either.
You could kick somebody.
This isn't Duke Nukem, but I love where your head's at right now. But for the most part, I mean, you could carry two weapons, unless, of course, you're dual wielding. Then technically, you'd be carrying three because you have your primary weapon and then your backup weapon. But if you're dual wielding, you got those two, and then the one on your back. Now, as we mentioned, you could use the alien weapons. Unlike the human weapons, they had energy cells instead of clips, so to speak. And once the energy cell ran out, that was it. You can't pick up any reserve ammo. You can't put a new battery into the alien weapons.
Why the fuck
Not
not?
That's just how they were designed, I guess. I don't know if the Covenant just didn't think that they would live that long to encounter an issue where their weapon running out of energy was going to cause their death, or if it's just a design flaw on their end. I'm not sure. Um, but not only is there the downside of not being able to get more ammo for your weapons, they would also overheat if you were to use them too rapidly.
What happened if it over? I mean, if it over, did it just stop working essentially?
Yeah, basically it would go from like you're firing, 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 and it had a heat meter too, so you could tell how hot the weapon was getting and when you should stop to let it
Let
cool
off.
down. Yeah, but if you just kept firing, it would essentially just blow back. Like you're firing a pistol, and all of a sudden, just like a burst of the energy would get released, and the weapon would just be unusable for like 5 or 10 seconds, somewhere around there. I don't remember exactly, but it did make it so you just couldn't use the weapon.
But they also did more, not more damage, but you could rip through shields with them a little bit easier and things like that because of
Yeah,
being an energy based weapon
right.
as opposed to bullets. Because since they're energy shields, in theory, energy, you could kill it with more energy and just shield's gone. Versus, I'm going to put in a million bullets and then it'll go away.
Yeah,
But,
that was the downside of the human weapons is that they didn't penetrate the shields too well. So
but you didn't have to worry about them overheating.
yeah, no
So,
overheating, and you just keep picking up ammo too, and you can just reload whenever necessary with the weapons. So the alien weapons really great for short bursts of a lot of damage, and the human weapons are more of just a sustained fire.
steady, steady
Yeah,
DPS, just.
right. Which I mean,
I'm actually.
situational. I mean, I love the BR battle rifle in Halo. It was like one of my favorite weapons. Like I said, I like the needler, but the charge pistol, whatever it is from the Covenant, was one of my
Oh,
all-time favorite
yeah.
weapons because you just hold down the trigger and charge that puppy up, and you can take out an elite shield in one shot, or one of the mobile shields that would be
Oh,
around
the
the levels
energy
and stuff.
pistol.
Yeah, the energy pistol. There you go. Yeah,
That thing's neat. And what I thought
it
was
was
cool with,
super powerful too, fully charged.
well, what was neat though that I thought too was that they actually, you know, they gave you the effect of the different changing projectiles depending on how long you held it too. 'Cause I remember like the first time I picked one up, I was like, all right, what's this do? I pressed the button, it's just like a little pathetic little fucking ball that went flying. I went, that's sad. And then I held it and it shot out this bigger orb. I went, oh, neat.
Indeed,
But
indeed.
I mean, on top of that, though, I mean, you know, with the grenades, you can carry a shit ton of grenades. I mean,
Yeah,
you
a
got
bunch
four
of grenades.
four plasma grenades plus four frag grenades. I mean, you can carry up to eight.
Yep.
That's a lot. I mean, most games nowadays you get two, maybe three.
Got so many memories of sticking people with those plasma grenades in multiplayer, and of course during the campaign and stuff like that as well. But Those
Do
plasmas
not
were
bring up
fun.
sticky grenades.
I'm sorry.
They are the goddamn bane of my existence in every game because I don't know. I can't get them to work. Like, I'll play games with sticky grenades and I'll watch people throw them in the most ridiculous. They're running past and they'll just fucking whip it at, in my general direction, and it seems that it'll magnetize to me. I try to throw it at them and it just fucking drops to the ground.
That
So
sucks.
those, yeah, those are the bane of my existence. But I mean, speaking of, you were talking about sticking people in multiplayer, which
Yep.
I hate you about. Um, like the original, the Xbox version feature, it had your multiplayer that allowed you to play split screen with your buddies or system link. And then Halo 2 also added the option of being able to actually play online via Xbox Live, which was
Mm-hmm.
which was neat. And then sort of added on top of that, they added a little bit more of a matchmaking system that kind of put a playlist in effect that it would give you a steady flow of games instead of having to queue up every single time. And then there was, on top of all that, they actually had a little bit of a skill rating system as well.
Yep. I do
Um,
remember that.
and then, with all that, the game stayed around for quite a while. But
Yeah.
April, I mean, shit, the game came out in 2004, and then April 2010 was actually when they cut support for it, which is a surprisingly long time.
Almost 6 years they kept those servers online.
Which, I mean, I don't know how much it costs to put servers out there, but I mean that was also um, while the Halo 2 servers were still up, Halo 3 had come out as well at that point
Kind of similar to what Bungie's doing now with
with Destiny.
Destiny
Sure.
2 is coming out September 8th of this year, but they did state that Destiny 1 servers will remain online for the foreseeable future. So, will they take them down in 2020? We're about 6 years after the game launched in 2014. We'll
Could
have to
be.
wait and see, but it's possible. But now we've gone over like the gameplay, multiplayer, and stuff like that. The real meat and potatoes is, of course, what you actually do in the game. This is where a lot of the research
Shoot
comes into
aliens.
play as well. Well, yeah, of course. I mean, the objective is to shoot the Covenant, but this game, just to briefly go over, the events of Halo 1, it's in the 26th century. The humans with the United Nations Space Command, or UNSC for short, they've colonized multiple worlds because of all the advancements in technology and everything. And they come across the Covenant, this race of aliens, a collective of alien races, rather. And they destroyed one of our planets called Harvest.
Those fuckers.
Well, it was actually yeah. They destroyed the outer planet itself. I was getting confused with the planet Reach because that's also in this rundown. But they destroyed the planet Harvest, and they actually declared the humans as an affront, or like
Huh.
whatchamacallit, like we offended their gods, the Forerunners, is what they call
Gotcha.
them. Yeah. And then
Well, I mean,
shortly after that, they destroyed the Bastion on the planet Reach. See, I told you it was in there. Um,
they're
and
assholes. I'm sorry,
yeah,
they're assholes. They're destroying all our shit.
well, I mean, this seems to be a common theme in Bungie games now that we're going back over this, because I mean, the darkness is pretty much after humanity, and the darkness is basically just another word for the Covenant. It's just a group of alien races that just don't like humans for some reason.
Nobody
Um,
likes us, but.
But yeah, one of the
Anyway,
last functional ships in the Armada, so to speak, the Pillar of Autumn, follows the proper protocol of the UNSC, and they open up a random slip space and jump away from Earth to lure the Covenant out of the solar system to stop their attack. Once they get out of the slip space jump, they stumble upon the Forerunner Ring World, and that's the Halo. Um, And the Covenant want to activate this Halo because they believe it will initiate a great journey that they believe will bring all of the loyal Covenant to a faraway place for salvation, essentially.
Hmm.
So they're trying to find their way to the Promised Land.
I mean, and then I mean after that though, we discover that the rings actually it was a last resort weapon built to contain the flood, and your main character, as in any Halo, as in most of the as in most of the Halo ones, you continue on with Master Chief and Cortana, uh,
Yep.
and you basically learn that activating the ring will prevent the spread of the flood.
Yeah.
Bonus.
Yep. Yeah, and it's pretty neat that Cortana is able to pull that from the AI monitor of the Halo itself. That's one thing that I really enjoyed about the game too is Cortana's presence. Like she's an artificial intelligence, but they gave her a form, which I thought was really cool.
That's true. Yeah, it wasn't just the speaking over the
Yeah,
comms
it's
or
kind of like
whatever
our
you want to call
ghost, but a more tangible visual for you. Albeit a woman, the name's Cortana. I don't know too many men that would have that name. Um, so yeah, a little holographic woman that used to talk with and used to access ports in the
it. Cyber friend.
cyber friend. Yeah, there you go. But
Uh,
yeah, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
don't let it happen again.
Oh, it will. Just be ready
Uh,
for it.
that's fine. But instead of following the guilty spark, Master Chief ends up blowing up the Pillar of Autumn's engines and destroys the ring. So
Yeah,
you end up preventing the spread of the flood as well. So I mean, either way, it's still you got the same result, but you didn't have to activate it. But you also find
yeah,
out, after you destroy that, you and Cortana start heading back to Earth to warn everybody about the impending threat and everything like that, which will continue on.
yeah. The Covenant is getting ready to come back and finish what they had started. So Master Chief, being the badass that he is, has to go back to Earth and warn everybody. So
Good for him.
makes sense. Yeah. So I mean, that in a nutshell was basically Halo One. Because I mean, if you ever played it, as you know, the game ends after you blow up the Halo ring. So now getting into Halo 2, DC, if you want to continue.
Um, yeah, I mean, you Halo 2 starts off with the trial of the Covenant elite commander, who's aboard their mobile capital city of High Charity. He ends up, sorry, he ends up being stripped of his rank and branded a heretic because he wasn't able to stop us from destroying the Halo.
Yep.
And he ends up being tortured by the brute chieftain Tartarus, while meanwhile, the Master Chief and Avery are being commended for their actions. So you got this sort of split going on. These guys are getting cheered for destroying the thing. Meanwhile, on the losing side of it, so to speak, he is getting just tortured and just all kinds of bad shit's happening to him.
Yeah.
Um, but then, moving forward, the Covenant end up invading Earth with a member with the Prophet of Regret, and it assaults the city. Assaults Kenya. Which why can't you just leave Kenya alone?
Because the Covenant just don't give a fuck.
Fair enough. But Master Chief, being a badass, he's able to get rid of the Covenant there, and Regret ends up making a hasty jump with Master Chief following in tow. And you end up discovering another Halo as well, and Keys ends up sending you to kill Regret while her and Johnson try to find the key to activate the other Halo, the Index. Which, why? Why do we have to try to activate? We destroyed the first one. It stopped what we needed to do. Why not just destroy another one instead of let's activate this one because it's gonna work.
Well, I mean, people have their own agendas sometimes.
Well, that's how
Well,
you
you
get
get
plot
this.
points.
You get this member of the hierarchy, the prophet of regret, as you mentioned, assaulting the city. We make chase and discover another Halo installment, so another ring world for the Forerunners. But it's like, do we destroy it, or do we try to harness it and use it to help us destroy this Covenant threat?
Destroying the first one worked pretty well. Why not blow up the second one?
Well, destroying the first one stopped the flood, but lo and behold, the Covenant still came back and started kicking our asses again.
So
So
you're
maybe
gonna
they're just
harness it. They're gonna continue to try to kick your ass whether you harness it or destroy it. So you may as well destroy it so that they can't get their grubby little hands on it.
well, hey, I don't know what to tell you. All I know is that our friend Thel Vadam, the Covenant elite that we see get stripped of his rank in the beginning of the game,
And the
he
shit beaten out of them.
yeah, and he gets fucking tortured by Tartarus. Now imagine how fun that is to type over and over again. Tartarus. Anyway, that was my research and taking bits and pieces from Wikipedia and stuff. But anyway, our disgraced Covenant commander friend is indeed found at fault for Halo's destruction by the Prophet hierarchs. But at the very same trial, they decide that he is no heretic. So instead of sentencing him to death or anything like that, they actually offer him a position of the arbiter for the Covenant. So that way he can continue the fight for them and try to destroy the humans and be able to activate the Halo and reach their salvation.
God damn it.
Yeah, yeah. And, his first mission is actually to track down heretics, a thing that he was almost convicted of being. And while he's on this adventure, he finds the AI of the Halo, 343 Guilty Spark. And the Covenant, they think of him as some sort of oracle. So, what he does, the Arbiter, he brings Guilty Spark back to High Charity. And it's from there that they receive the stress call from Regret. Because Master Chief is there to whoop some ass. So I mean, they respond to the stress the distress call, and they get to the Halo, which they called Installation 05, just before Master Chief kills Regret. So they were kind of
Just a second
almost
late.
there. Yeah, they were just a little too late to stop that from happening. But they are there in time to bombard Master Chief with all kinds of weaponry from outer space. And that made Master Chief fall into a lake, in which is where he was rescued by a mysterious tentacled creature.
You know, I feel like rescued and giant tentacle creature, not really good in the same sentence. I
Yeah, they
mean,
don't really go well together, honestly.
like, when's the last time you heard? Remember that one time we were rescued from those animals by a mysterious tentacled creature?
No, I don't
Nope.
remember that at all.
Nope.
But yeah, so Master Chief gets knocked into the lake, gets saved by this tentacled creature. From there, the Covenant hierarchs give the brutes the elite's job of protecting them after Regret's death, because at that point they didn't trust the elites. That's just part of the Covenant hierarchy. Each member of the Covenant has their title and their positions within the races themselves. And up until that point, it was the elite's duty to protect the prophets. But let's see, Master
Clearly, it
Chief had
didn't work.
already killed one prior, I believe, in Halo 1. The Prophet of Regret gets slaughtered by Master Chief, so they're switching things up a bit and put the brutes in the elite's position But that then causes discord among the races
Well,
because, the people are getting promoted or, demoted based on what had transpired. But after that, the Arbiter finds the Halo Index himself. He gets there, and he actually also discovers Johnson and Keyes, but he's confronted by Tartarus. And Tartarus tells the Arbiter that the prophets had ordered the annihilation of the elites now. So first they put the brutes in their position, and now they want to just wipe out the elites as a whole. And being that the Arbiter is an elite, Tartarus tosses him down into a deep chasm to his death.
dun dun dun.
Dun dun dun!
But from that though, from what I'm seeing here, and from what I can remember, again, it's saved again by the giant tentacle creature.
Yep.
And he meets Master Chief in the bowels of the installation.
And this is where the game gets really freaking cool because you get to play as one of the enemies, which I thought was really awesome in this game.
It was different, to be honest, because most games you never get to do that. I mean,
I'm pretty sure they had you play as the Arbiter prior to this point as well. Like, I don't remember necessarily when you start playing as the Arbiter, but I do know that's one thing that was introduced in this game that I really enjoyed.
Right, and I think that, with them putting that spin on things is kind of neat because how many times when you're playing, any other game that's out there and you run across some of these really fucking badass enemies, did you ever think, this would be awesome to play as, just to try it out,
Yeah, like a bunch of people now would like to play as one of the Fallen from Destiny, but...
Dibs on Barracks.
So after the Arbiter was saved by this tentacle creature and met Master Chief, I mean, where did they go from there? I don't necessarily remember from my research.
Well, you find out the creature itself, which is called Gravemind, it's actually the leader of the Flood on Installation 05.
That's right. That's right.
And the Gravemind kind of reveals that the Great Journey would destroy Flood, humans, and the Covenant altogether. And it ends up sending Master Chief and the Arbiter different places to try to stop the Halo's activation because turns out nothing good's going to happen from activating that Halo. And so Master Chief gets sent to High Charity in the middle of a civil war. Lovely.
Yep.
And
well, it's right after the brutes got put into the freaking elite's position, and then the prophets or the hierarchy decided that they want all the elites dead. So yeah, there's a bit of tension in between the Covenant right now at that point.
And I mean, and basically, they send him two different ways, and Cortana ends up realizing that Gravemind used them as a distraction, and the Flood begins to overrun the city.
Yeah, evidently they were actually in the process of taking over the ship that they had used to get there to the new Halo. And it's when that crashes down into the city that Cortana realizes this fact that, while he has us off on a wild goose chase,
they're sneaking in under the radar and...
Yeah, trying to stop them from activating the Halo and us drawing all the attention, they went onto our ship and just destroyed it.
And then, after that realization, the Flood ends up consuming the Prophet of Mercy and the Prophet of... consume the Prophet of Mercy, and then the Prophet of Truth orders Tartarus to take Keyes, Johnson, and the Guilty Spark to the Halo control room to activate the ring. Which...
because, I mean, not only is it how they get to salvation, but up to that point, they also believed that the Halo rings were meant to stop the Flood from spreading, so...
and then, Master Chief ends up following Truth as it's leaving the city, and Cortana stays behind to destroy High Charity and Halo if Tartarus is successful.
Good old Cortana.
Meanwhile, the Arbiter ends up being sent to the surface of Halo, where he rallies his God damn it. He rallies his allies, the other elites, against the brutes. Johnson actually helps the Arbiter confront Tartarus in the control room and tries to convince him that he's been betrayed by the prophets as well. But stubborn leaders activates the ring anyway.
Yep. Damn Tartarus.
The Arbiter and then Johnson work together. They kill Tartarus while Keyes removes the index, and fail-safe protocol ends up being triggered, and it ends up putting Installation 5 and all the other rings on a standby for activation from a remote location, which the Guilty Spark ends up calling the Ark.
Yep.
And that's basically where it cuts out.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like a cliffhanger ending, but they give you some sort of closure, knowing that you've stopped the activation of that Halo once you remove the index, but it didn't stop it completely, so it also leaves it up for more other stories to be told and sequels. And well, we went over that earlier in the show, how many iterations of this game have come about.
I thought this was actually kind of interesting, though, too, that they put a sort of after credit scene as well.
Yeah.
That the High Charity actually ends up being completely taken over by the Flood. And you see throughout the air all these little fucking flood spores just floating around.
Mm-hmm.
And then you hear the Gravemind actually talking, speaking of satisfaction of being free from his quote-unquote empty grave, and Cortana appears in the room, and the Gravemind actually talks to Cortana and says that he had questions that linger in his mind, and then Cortana says, "All right, shoot," as to listen to him basically, and then the screen just cuts out.
Yep.
What the fuck?
So are we working with the Flood? I mean, what the hell's going on?
Yeah, it basically kind of leaves you at a what the hell, what's really going on, because that leaves the question of what the hell's Cortana doing? Is she with us, against us? Well, I don't know. You don't really know. So I thought, it definitely sets it up for a sequel, obviously, which I thought was it's kind of, I hate leaving games on cliffhangers, but at the same time, it is a neat way to end the game, sort of like with a post-credit scene and stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of movies do that kind of thing nowadays.
Yeah, but a lot of movies nowadays, too, are just trying to set up for sequels too much, I think. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, as opposed to just leaving that, putting little subtle hints in throughout the movie. Most of the movie is just a build-up for the next one. It's like, Jesus Christ, I just want to enjoy this one. I don't want to be thinking about the next one already.
Coming up with unique ideas is rather hard, I would assume, at this point in the movie industry. What story has not been told in a movie yet? When people do find something that kind of stands out a little bit, why wouldn't you set it up to have like 3 movies as part of that universe?
That's fair.
It sucks that's how people look at things, but it's all about the dollar. You can't do anything without money nowadays. So
yeah.
But not to get on the depressing note, did you play a lot of Halo 2? It sounds like you played some of it back in the day.
I played a little bit of it. I played more. I played the original more so, but
Okay.
I played a little bit of Halo 2, like over at my friend. I go over to like a buddy's house or something, and and I remember playing a little bit of like the local multiplayer. Just get a couple people together and just play some PvP and things like that, and that was always fun.
Okay.
For me, but I did a lot more Halo 1. Like remember with the original, taking my Xbox over, get a bunch of people together in a room, set up a big fucking LAN, and just have a blast with it. But then,
Yeah.
Halo 2, I don't, I kind of started playing more PlayStation things. I didn't really do as much in the Xbox realm at that point, so I never really got to play it as much on my own. But whenever I go over to like friends' houses, I would play it. I don't know. I know, speaking before the show a little bit, you had quite a bit of experience with this game, hell of a
Yeah.
lot more than I did.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like it. I mean, like yourself, I wasn't much of a Microsoft or Xbox console purchaser or connoisseur, however you want to put it. But one of my best friends at the time was. He had an Xbox, and he got Halo 2. And I was over his house one time, and we played it together, and it was just like instantly fell in love with the game. I mean, the landscapes, how the game played was all really well done, especially in the multiplayer. Um, I wish I remember how I used to do so well in Halo 2 and apply that to my Destiny career right now. Because I remember being rather good in the Halo 2 multiplayer. Like, not only could you do co-op campaign, but you could also bring a friend with you. Like, they could sign into your console as a guest, and then you
Oh,
could
really?
bring them online with you as well. Yeah,
Huh.
so we would, the two of us would go into multiplayer and just completely annihilate the competition. Like, it was constantly either myself or him in first position, and then the other one was in second place. Like, we would just control the rooms in that game.
Hmm.
I don't know what changed. Maybe because I stopped playing a lot of FPS games for quite a while and my thumbs just aren't quite there. Or it's because I'm older now.
You're
Uh,
old.
Shut up. But a lot of fond memories from Halo 2, both with the cooperative campaign because we used to play through it on the hardest difficulty, trying to get the skulls and shit like that in the campaign missions, but also the multiplayer. It was just so much fun.
You're a goddamn glutton for punishment.
One, well, I wouldn't
I
say that, but
Every single game we've been coming across, I played through hard mode, hard mode, hard mode. Fuck that. I'm good. Never had the patience for the hardest modes.
I like a challenge sometimes. It just depends on the game. If it's a game that I played the campaign on and I play it on normal and I just feel like I just breezed right through it, then if I enjoyed it enough, I'll play through it again on the hardest difficulty. Why not?
That's fair. I don't see the one thing that I was looking into was like because I don't really remember. I mean, because you see it nowadays, in a lot of games as far as like a lot of players like online cheating, things like that. That just is it's what happens with online gaming.
Yeah,
You get
there were some issues with Halo 2,
I
as
mean,
good
I
as it was.
remember, from just doing a little bit of research into it. I don't really remember running into a lot of this because I never really played that much online. It was mostly playing just multiplayer with friends, things like that. But I guess there was the standby cheat where whoever ended up being host of that room, you press the standby button on the modem, and apparently it froze everybody else in place.
Wow.
Yeah, I was like, shit. So whatever game mode you're playing, you could just freeze everybody else and go to fucking town on them.
Gotta love
I
those
mean,
peer-to-peer connections.
I guess that's kind of, from what it almost sounds like, is almost like lag switching in a way.
Very, very similar. Yeah.
But then I guess you could also, I guess, what was called soft modding, where they use like an action replay or other computer related programs to give yourself unfair advantages. And then the last exploit, which I don't get how this made it. I don't quite get this one, but it was, I guess, called BXR, and it apparently allowed you to melee somebody, cancel the animation like as you were in the process of doing it,
Hmm.
and then quickly attack right after for an instant kill.
Yeah, I believe it was called BXR because those were the buttons that were involved. like the B button, X button, and then the right trigger. So if I remember
Huh.
correctly, B was the melee, X was to reload your weapon, and then right trigger was to fire. So you melee attack, immediately after you press that, you hit to go and reload your weapon, which would make it so that your melee would connect still, but your animation wouldn't complete because you'd swap to a different one. And then once in the reload animation, you just hit the right trigger to then shoot them.
That's assy.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, some people like to play games, unfortunately. I mean, I don't understand myself personally. I mean, yeah, I used stuff like Game Genie back in the day when I was a kid, but when I was doing things and cheating, it was like single player. It wasn't affecting anybody else's fun in the game other than my own.
Game
So,
Shark.
yeah, I used one, okay? I
So did
admit it.
I. I had a Game Shark for my maybe Super Nintendo or I don't remember. I remember I had the Game Shark though because you plug. No, it was for Nintendo 64 because you plugged the Game Shark in and then you plugged the fucking game in on top of it.
Yeah, I had one for Nintendo and Genesis.
I might have had one for that too.
I
But
also had the Sonic and Knuckles cartridge for Sega Genesis that you could also
that you pushed
plug
the
another cartridge on top of. Yeah,
that was neat. Um,
it was pretty cool.
but I mean, the
Imagine.
thing was with this game, I mean, it pretty much it set the bar for FPS games. I mean, scoring wise, based on 91 reviews, it still holds a freaking Metascore of a 95,
It did really freaking well.
which that's insane. I mean, that's you don't see that very often anymore. Like, I
No.
mean, you'll see games get rated high, but with that many reviews, it still gets, with 91 reviews, it still holds a 95. I mean, EGM gave it 100. There was a lot. There was about 7 or 8 different ones that gave it 100s. Game Informer
EGM.
gave it.
I remember that magazine.
Never really. I mean, I'm aware of it. Never really read that one. Game Informer actually gave it 100, and the title of their article was just simply put, "It's the greatest FPS that the console world has seen to date." I mean, that's that says something. I mean,
Yeah, the way I always thought of it was Halo revolutionized first-person shooters, as far as the experience goes. Halo 2 revolutionized the Halo experience. Like, that's when they really got it dialed in, and that's why I think it got received so well. And that's another reason why I'm so confident in Bungie's ability to produce a stellar game for Destiny's sequel. Like, a lot of people are on the fence, like, oh, I don't know if it's going to be that great. Look at the first Destiny. Yeah, look at the first Destiny. People that even don't play the game every day still put in over 1,000 hours on a first-person shooter. Like, what other game has the ability to keep your attention for that long and keep you going back and continue to play? So even though it had its flaws, Destiny itself, um, it was a fantastic overall experience. Like, I really, really love it, and I feel that we're gonna follow in the same footsteps. Destiny 2 is gonna be the Halo 2 of the Destiny franchise, and it's just gonna get better and keep getting better. At least that's my hope.
you think?
Yeah, I really think Bungie can do it. They
I mean,
learn from their
well,
mistakes.
I mean, I think though too. I mean, again, hopping off the Halo train onto the Destiny wagon for a moment. Um, I mean, what I think with that though too is now that they're only going to be able to develop for it's being just well, technically 3 consoles now.
Yep.
Um, but PS4, Xbox, and PC have such similar architecture, and being that they're all current gen systems, I think I have nothing but high hopes for it. I really do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, Halo 2. I mean, shit. As of November 2008, um, which which is the last figure I could find. I mean, there might be other ones more current, but in a 4 year period, I'll say it's about a 4 year period. It ended up selling almost 8.5 million copies of the game.
That's nothing to shake a stick at.
That's a lot. I mean, that's
Mm-hmm.
and that's, and especially too, the thing was like back then, gaming, it's not the monster that it is today either. Even you look, because the thing was back then, I mean, your consoles were just in general a lot more expensive, and you didn't have as much access as you do now. Even looking back 7 or 8 years ago, the gaming landscape, if you will, has changed by leaps and bounds.
It's changing all the time now.
Right. Because I remember it took me just to get, when I first got my original Xbox, it took me a while. And the thing was, it took me a while to get that because they were not cheap. I mean, granted, consoles nowadays aren't cheap per se either, but they're a lot more, they've been able to make them a lot more affordable than what they used to be.
Yeah.
And, they're in a lot more households now. Because, I mean, Halo 2 came out for the Xbox, the original Xbox. So, I mean, you already had the install base there, but it's a hell of a figure. I mean, but I mean, I don't know if you have anything else really to add for this episode.
Not really on Halo 2, but we could pick the game for next week.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right.
Bring on RNGesus.
RNGesus. Okay.
We love that son of a bitch.
While we were covering the tail end of our information there, I did pull up random.org and did the generation for the decade. And it looks like we're staying in the relatively close past. I don't know how you would actually look at that in the 2010s. So it's going to be another relatively recent game. From 1 to 50, we're covering game number 4. Okay, so it picked 4 and then 4. Random.org is trying to tell me something.
Destiny.
Actually, no, it is not Destiny. It is Mafia 2.
Oh, I played this one.
Yeah. Mafia 2 will be the game for next week.
All right, keep an eye on next week. That's gonna be a fun one.
That's a gangster game. I know that much. I think I've played Mafia. Was it Mafia 2 or Mafia 1 that I played? I don't remember. It was one of them.
I played both. I haven't touched on Mafia 3 at all, but I'm okay with that. But I have played 1, and I want to say 2. I want to say
Mafia
I played
3
the first 2.
Really freaking good, man.
I've heard less. It looks good, but I've heard it's pretty, but lack of substance.
So much to do on the map. How can there be a lack of substance?
Because it's lack of variety of substance.
Very repetitive, yeah.
Yeah, like, great, I'm going to fill this map with a billion fucking things. This looks huge. You're doing the same thing here, 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 and here.
Yep. That's the downside of doing stuff like that. Try to give the player a lot of things to accomplish, but unless you have the variety, it's going to get repetitive really quick, and people aren't going to want to complete all of what you put out there for them to do. So,
sadly, but I mean, other than that, I think that's going to do it for this week. Thanks everybody for tuning in live here on Beam, watching our video version on YouTube when that drops, or listening to on Podbean or iTunes as well. If anybody has any questions, feedback for the show, send that over to GameCastContinuum@gmail.com. And don't forget also to give us a follow on Beam as well as on Twitter over at GC Continuum. And we will see you again next week for another exciting episode of GameCast Continuum.